session to.
Right, welcome everybody. Thank you for being here. We will get started in about a minute or so. Right. Just making sure everyone is here, and then we'll get started. All right. So hello and welcome to today's webinar where you will meet the new criminal justice mental health learning sites. My name is Katie Herman. I'm a senior policy analyst here at the Council of State Governments Justice Center. Just a few logistical items before we start. All of the attendees are muted and you'll stay muted, but please use the Q&A function throughout the webinar. And as we answer your questions, you'll see the responses in the Q&A function button on your screen. This is being recorded, and you can receive a link to the recording afterwards. So now let's look at today's agenda. Next slide, please. So the Bureau of Justice Assistance, or BJA, is our funder and the supporter of this project. We'll hear from Brooke Mount, Senior Policy Advisor at BJA. I will also provide an overview of the learning sites. We'll hear from some of the sites themselves, and we'll preview the new learning site website. You can see how you can request support from the sites. And we should have some time for questions and answers at the end as well. Next slide, please. So this is who we are at the Council of State Justice, the Council of State Governments Justice Center. We are a national nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that combines the power of membership association, and we serve all three branches of state government. Next slide, please. This is how we work. We bring people together. We drive the criminal justice field forward with research. We build momentum for policy change, and we provide expert assistance. Next slide. I don't see the slides anymore. That's okay. The slides were about, I'll just wait a minute or so. Oh, you can see the slides. Oh, I can't see the slides. I'm sorry. Okay, well, we'll just keep going. So the next slide was about CSG's goals and CSG Justice Center Equity and Inclusion Statement. Sorry, hold on, let me see. I can't see the slides. I don't know what happened. That's okay. I'll just keep talking and imagine what the slides are going to look like. Okay, so the mental health learning sites are part of BJA's Justice and Mental Health Collab. Oh, okay, there we go. I see our goals. Thank you. Next slide, please. That was strange. Okay, there's our equity and inclusion statement. Next slide, please. Okay, so these mental health learning sites are part of the Justice and Mental Health Collaboration Program, JMHCP, which promotes innovative cross-system collaboration and provides grants directly to states, local governments, and federally recognized Indian tribes. So some of you here may be JMHCP grantees, which is great. Next slide, please. Great. So now I'm very happy to welcome Brooke Mount, who is a senior policy advisor for BJA. She's going to give a few words about these new learning sites. And you can move on to the next slide also.
Thank you so much, Katie. Hi, everyone. I'm Brooke Mount. I'm a senior policy advisor at the Bureau of Justice Assistance, or BJA. As Katie mentioned, I oversee the Justice and Mental Health Collaboration Program. BJA is located within the Office of Justice Programs at the Department of Justice, and our mission is to provide leadership and services in grant administration and criminal justice policy development to support state, local, and tribal justice strategies to achieve safer communities. So I am so pleased to be here today to welcome you all and introduce you to these new criminal justice and mental health learning sites. We are so excited to be launching these new sites during May Mental Health Awareness Month, as these learning sites will help other agencies and jurisdictions really improve and enhance outcomes for people with behavioral health needs involved in the criminal justice system through peer-to-peer connections. And these mental health learning sites were modeled after the successful law enforcement mental health learning sites, which were originally launched in 2010, and then they were expanded in 2017, and then ultimately revamped in 2020. And since 2020, these sites have responded to almost 2,000 technical assistance requests, which is quite remarkable. The new 10 criminal justice mental health learning sites that we will learn about today were selected from across the United States for their innovative practices, their ability to support collaboration and knowledge exchange, foster innovation, and serve as mentors for other agencies that are passionate about improving criminal justice and behavioral health programming. These sites were chosen because they are at the forefront of really creating effective and sustainable solutions for people with behavioral health needs using research-based strategies with documented results. And together with the law enforcement mental health learning sites, these new sites allow us to offer a full continuum of peer learning sites under the Justice and Mental Health Collaboration Program, from crisis response through reentry into the community. So we really hope this allows communities of all different shapes and sizes to be inspired and learn from their peers in establishing effective collaborations across the sequential intercept model. You're going to be hearing from some of these selected sites today about their exciting programs and how you can access their technical assistance. So I really hope you take advantage of these wonderful resources. And now I'm going to turn it back to Katie, who's going to give you a bit more background and overview of the project. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Thank you so much, Brooke. And thanks so much again for BJA's support of this project. Next slide, please. So now I'll give an overview of the Learning Sites project briefly. Next slide. Yes, so next slide, please. So the new mental health learning sites, the goal of these sites are to identify promising and effective approaches and best practices along the sequential intercept map. The sites provide peer-to-peer learning to sites. They were modeled, as Brooke said, after CSG's law enforcement mental health learning sites, which are primarily police departments doing effective and innovative work in their responses to people with behavioral health needs. Next slide. So in 2022, we released the application to become a site. It was very rigorous. It had a lot of questions about service delivery, partnerships, equity and community involvement, data and information sharing, and financial sustainability. Applicants were asked to identify areas where they could provide training or technical assistance. They were asked to submit letters of recommendations, copies of their policies and procedures, and examples of past consultation that they may have provided. Next slide. As Brooke mentioned, the selected sites represent geographical diversity, different types of target populations and treatment modalities, different size jurisdictions, so urban, suburban, rural, a diverse type of funding structures. We know funding projects is a very common challenge and need for the field. So all of these projects have diverse types of funding and a range of technical assistance specializations. Next slide, please. So here's what the sites can provide in terms of technical assistance. They can provide direct assistance. You can email them directly, and I'll show you how to do that towards the end. You can call them if you just have questions about something that you see in their program profile, which I'll show you. How did you get this program started? How do you get stakeholder buy-in? How do you fund a program like this? The sites are happy to have virtual Zoom meetings with the whole team if that's what you're interested in. Our learning sites will participate in different trainings that we have here at the Justice Center, webinars. We have an Ask the Expert series actually tomorrow, where one of our speakers today is going to participate. And they can also host site visits, either virtual or in person. So if there's a site you're really interested in seeing virtually or in person, we can help coordinate a visit. And all this assistance is provided free of charge to the requester. Next slide. So now I'm just going to talk through briefly our 10 selected sites. So next slide, please. So here is a lovely map featuring where our 10 sites are located. Next slide. So as I mentioned, the sequential intercept model, now with our law enforcement mental health learning sites and these criminal justice mental health learning sites, these sites span the whole SIM, which was developed by Policy Research Associates, PRA. So these learning sites really start at Intercept 2 in court-based diversion, and then go all the way through Intercept 5 in the community corrections. Next slide, please. So now I'll give a brief description of each site. We'll hear from a few of these programs directly, and I'll also encourage you to check out our new website, which I'll also show you towards the end to get a lot of information about each site. But here are the learning sites that work in court settings. So the Bonneville, Idaho Mental Health Court is a rural mental health court for people with severe and persistent mental illness charged with misdemeanors and felonies, and they use a assertive community treatment model for their participants. The EAC NYC Mental Health Diversion Program is a coordinated citywide program that provides alternative to incarceration, court monitoring services for defendants with serious mental health needs involved in the criminal justice system who may or may not have also co-occurring substance use disorder. They use a very flexible program model that supports diversion through mental health courts, other problem-solving courts, and non-specialty courts. Their program involves collaboration with mental health and substance use training programs to support staffing, staff retention, staff recruitment. They include a research infrastructure in support of program evaluation, quality improvement, information dissemination, and academic collaboration. The Downtown Austin Community Court, who we'll also hear from a bit later, is a restorative justice and problem-solving court. Their services focus on alternative resolutions using case management and intensive wraparound services to help defendants with misdemeanors and other people in the community who are experiencing homelessness. The Lancaster County Department of Community Corrections in Nebraska offers 5 court-based diversion programs. They offer treatment diversion, intensive supervision diversion, mental health diversion, veterans diversion, and a general diversion program. They provide multi-track diversion programming to better address behavioral health needs and improve each program participants' likelihood of success. So they have this multi-track model, which can really target individuals' needs. They use a lot of evidence-based programming, including the matrix model, substance abuse treatment, wellness recovery action plans, moral recognition therapy, the Helping Women Recover and the Helping Men Recover curriculum. So they are happy to talk about any of those curriculums. Next, the Pinal County Attorney's Office's Adult Diversion Program identifies eligible diversion participants through comprehensive interview and assessment processes and connects them with services and treatment based on their needs. They have a very unique digital technology platform to improve connectivity to services and outcomes. So they can do a lot via this digital case management platform. And we have a representative from that program here today who can talk about that a bit more, but it's a really interesting system where they can do case management, develop SMART goals, give real-time continuous feedback to participants and officers. They can use like games on this app to provide affirmations, and they can record community service all in this app. Next slide, please. Here are our sites that are working in jail or prison reentry settings. So the Boulder County, Colorado Community Services Department's Behavioral Health Assistance Program, or BHAP, is a jail reentry program that provides intensive long-term support to people in the justice system who have severe and persistent mental illness, substance use disorders, or co-occurring disorders. They offer long-term intensive case management to people who are exiting Boulder County's jail. It's a collaborative program between Boulder County's Community Justice Services Division and their local community mental health agency called Mental Health Partners. As the next site, as the local mental health authority for the Heart of Texas region, the Heart of Texas Behavioral Health Network, HOTBHN is their acronym, is charged with providing community mental health services to the local population, including Medicaid recipients, people who are uninsured or insured, or those who are unable to pay for any services. They created the Behavioral Health Justice Center, a dedicated division that administers their behavioral health programming within their correctional facilities. They have their jail diversion program features mental health clinicians who conduct mental health screenings and work with judicial partners across all the jails within their catchment area. They link people to behavioral health care inside the jail, and they work closely with their judicial stakeholders to secure diversion and positive behavioral health justice outcomes. They also offer outpatient competency restoration, which I know is a very kind of hot button topic right now. So they're also happy to provide TA around outpatient competency restoration. Next, the Faith Thorough Care Program is a rehabilitative program for people and their families navigating through San Bernardino County's jail system in California. They use mental health professionals and safety staff from the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, Community Service and Reentry Division. They provide multidimensional services to people in custody at the local jails there, as well as out of custody reentry services at their community site. Their services are rooted in evidence-based practices that provide psychoeducation, counseling, case management, as well as very interesting theoretical frameworks like interpersonal process theory. They also have a innovative staffing structure where they have full-time staff and graduate level behavioral science interns from their university partners. Their staff are certified in the Ohio Risk Assessment System, and they're trained trainers, so they can train others to be certified using that risk assessment. They also use a series of 12 IRB approved assessments to track client outcomes. And again, they have a very strong family focus in their work. And finally, the Washington Correction Center for Women Mental Health Program, who we'll also hear from today, is a prison reentry program that helps women recover from trauma, mental illness, and substance use disorders. They can leave prison and positively re-engage in the community as neighbors and family members. This is done through a multifaceted approach that really prioritizes evidence-based trauma therapy and treatment outcomes. Next slide. And finally, we have our specialized probation and parole project. So this is through the Virginia Department of Corrections Community Mental Health Program, where they embed mental health staff into probation and parole districts to facilitate community continuity of care and increase the likelihood of successful reentry for people on supervision with mental health needs. So next slide. So I hope you see that we have a wide range of sites from all around the country, different size jurisdictions that are doing really interesting, innovative work along the CIM. And now I'm very excited to turn it over to some of these sites to hear from them a bit more about their programs and the type of TA that they're willing and able to provide. So first we'll hear from the Downtown Austin Community Court, Laura Williamson.
Hi, I'm Laura Williamson from Downtown Austin Community Court. I'll give you an overview of our services as well as kind of how we can help in our history providing technical support to other communities. This year we'll be celebrating our 25th anniversary of providing services. We were the first community court in Texas and the 8th in the United States. Many of our services are focused around helping people and their experience with homelessness, and our mission is to empower people to thrive by providing impartial justice and compassionate community-based services. We have 4 operational areas, and I'll go over each, but just as an overview, we have court services, homeless services, community services, and support services. Our court services, as Katie mentioned earlier, we're a problem-solving court. We resolve Class C misdemeanors that are non-traffic offenses, and our focus is on alternative forms of adjudication and connecting people to services. In March, we launched a clinical diversion program, which embeds our case managers into the courtroom so that they're part of the court proceedings, helping people engaging in court services figure out what sorts of things might help count towards their community service hours. So engaging in substance use services, case management, getting identification documents, and those sorts of things. They can participate for up to 90 days, and then we can link them to ongoing services if they need more help after that. In addition to helping with the connection to services, our clinical diversion program also helps our case completion rates as well. And then in October of last year, we launched our mobile court pilot, which we're hoping to implement permanently. But that takes, we do court case checks out in the community, and we also take our clinical diversion program case managers in the community to connect people to services, and then also provide virtual access to judges and prosecutors so that people can address cases on the spot, resolve warrants, and then, when appropriate, connect them to ongoing case management services as well. For our homeless services, really across the board for everything we do, we focus on both deflection and diversion. For our homeless services, we do have intensive case management services, which are housing focused and person centered. Our case managers have low caseloads of 15 to 16 people to be able to provide wraparound supports. Some of those are provided directly by our case managers, but we also fund social service supports to make sure that we can make everything available, even if it's not something we provide in-house. So that can include an array of different types of housing options, peer support services, representative payee and SOAR application assistance, and some substance use services as well. We also provide walk-in case management, which serves about 70 people per day. We enable people to use us for their mailing address. We help people sign up for public benefits and obtain their identification documents, access to basic needs, linkages to medical, mental health, and substance use resources. And we just recently launched a medication storage program as well. And then we're also part of the Homeless Outreach Street Team, which is an interdisciplinary team that goes out into the community to try to reach folks, figure out what their needs are, and address those. Our community service program, we have crew leaders that help. They help participants complete required public service hours by doing municipal purpose jobs, which can be beautification projects, graffiti abatement. We partner with departments across the city to meet work order needs in that way. And we also have a program garden where people can complete their hours, where any food that's grown or eggs that are harvested are donated to organizations that feed people in our homeless community. And our community services also over our Violet Keep Safe storage program, which is a free storage program located in downtown for individuals experiencing homelessness. We do operate 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. 7 days a week to make sure people have pretty flexible access to their belongings. And the program, as a best practice, employs people with lived experience, which really is beneficial for the experience our participants have coming in and engaging with our staff. And it also creates workforce development opportunities for the folks that we serve as well. And then finally, our support services really provide overall departmental and special project support, help with our community engagement and communications, and also helps with partner trainings for programs such as the Criminal Justice and Mental Health Learning Site. Before we had joined this program, we have done kind of an array of different site visits and virtual training options. So we can do anything from a 1 to 2 day full trainings or individual meetings virtually or in person as needed. And so either me or someone else in our support services staff will have kind of an initial email or phone call exchange to make sure whatever training we're provided is really geared towards whatever the folks we're working with really want to learn. So we really are grateful to be part of this program and look forward to providing assistance to anybody that wants to reach out.
Great. Thank you so much, Laura. And yeah, it really is such an amazing, innovative program. Next slide. And next we'll hear from Teresa Fuller at the Pinal County Attorney's Office Adult Diversion Program in Arizona. Teresa, you're muted.
Thank you. I always seem to do that.
No
Hello,
problem.
everyone. I'm Teresa Fuller, and I'm the Director of Reentry Services for the Pinal County Sheriff's Office, and I also oversee adult diversion for the Pinal County Attorney's Office. Our adult diversion program is a court-based prosecutorial-led diversion program. Currently, we have pre-filing and post-filing diversion cases that come through both our justice court and our superior court. We're also working on expanding to municipal court. Thanks to the work that we've done with the BJA, we've been able to implement a sustainability plan and have a lot of our diversion officers that we utilize in our program move to general fund. And then we were also able to obtain additional funding to expand our program to the municipal court level. So we're working on that as well. In our program, we are framed by risk needs responsivity principle, meaning that we utilize comprehensive assessment tools. There's a battery of assessments we do, including the Ohio Risk Assessment Screening Tool, which looks at criminogenic needs, the factors we know contribute to criminal behavior that we can change, as well as with recidivate. We also utilize the Brief Addiction Monitor, which looks at substance use disorders, the SF-36, which looks at physical and mental health. And then we utilize the ACEs, the Adverse Childhood Experiences, as well as the PREPARE, which looks at social determinants of health. These assessment tools are administered through an app-based program called Reconnect that the defendant can download on their phone. And through that app, we can send out these assessments and they're able to complete them on their phone. And then our diversion officers meet with the defendant during an intake and review the scores with them to help identify what their transition plan or their case plan is going to look like based on their individual needs. And then also through the app, we are able to send out educational content, programming, and resources based on those social determinants of health and those criminogenic needs. So instead of somebody getting like 500 resources, we can really tailor it down based to what's going to be most effective for them. They can also text message their officer through the app. And we can text message back and forth with them to provide resources. Really, the app helps us enhance coordination of care and connectivity to those services. We're also able to pull results on all of our assessment tools. We do biweekly surveys as well. And those results we're able to see at the individual and the aggregate level so that we can use that data to inform not only system-wide change, but also programmatic change in areas where there's gaps in services. So for example, we noticed throughout our data collection that about 50% of our individuals coming through the diversion program were unemployed at the time of intake, which is significant. So we've been able to utilize that data to apply for additional funding to address education, employment, and financial domains. So that's one area that the app has been very beneficial. We also train our diversion officers in evidence-based practices. They receive training on risk needs responsivity principle, motivational interviewing, and effective practices in correctional settings, which are tools that officers can utilize to increase motivation to change, as well as address skill deficits and attitudes that drive criminal behavior. And officers who utilize EPICS have been found to be highly effective in reducing recidivism. So overall for our program, the technical team assistance that we could provide would be based on implementation of prosecutorial-led diversion programs that are framed in risk and needs responsivity principle, utilization of app-based programming, reporting needs, applying for grants, and as well as a significant part of our program is community-based participatory research. So we have a stakeholder team that is comprised of members who provide services or agencies who are involved with justice-involved individuals across the intercepts. They have helped us immensely throughout our project, including helping with dissemination efforts, and even implementing a statewide diversion work group that is sponsored by our Arizona Prosecuting Attorneys Advisory Council, who is now working on statewide training in ORAS to implement risk needs screening across our state.
Great, thank you, Teresa. And I should have said this at the beginning, but you're able to reach out to these sites if you are kind of in the very beginning of thinking of a program, figuring out funding, or if you have a program that's been in, implementation for years and you just want like a few tips on how to, use an app like that, or how to, build a community-based participatory group or something. So really, these sites are available in any different capacity. Great. Next slide. And now I'm very happy to welcome Eric Olson from the Bonneville, Idaho Mental Health Court.
Hey, thank you. Good afternoon. It's good to be with you. So I'm Eric Olson. I'm the coordinator for our Bonneville County Mental Health Court. We've been around since 2002. We started the first mental health court in Idaho. And my background is that I was a counselor on our assertive community treatment team. And then for the last, many, many years have been working as the coordinator for the court. We're pretty rural, so we're pretty small. We have our cap right now is 25. We've used an assertive community treatment model for years. We take both misdemeanor and felony, folks with misdemeanor and felony offenses. We use the LSIR for our screening tool. So we're working with the high-risk folks. We've had a mental health court study in our state a few years ago, which was great because we found that that's actually who we do the best with, not just our court, but statewide. So we're really focused on the risk need responsivity model and focusing on those central 8 dynamic risk factors. So that's kind of one of our main focuses. We're a post-adjudication court. That's partly why we work with the misdemeanor and felony folks together. I know here in Idaho, we're a little unique in that our misdemeanor folks have quite a bit of actual jail time and supervision time over their heads. So that's kind of unique to us. Most of them have 2 years of supervision and 6 months of incarceration time over their heads. We really like MRT, moral recognition therapy. That's one of the key pieces to what we do. We also use DBT and the RAP plans, wellness recovery action plans. All of our treatment is integrated with one team, which we love. It has been interesting because Idaho shifted in the last year of how we do funding. So in the last year, we've been retraining an entire new team on how to do all of these things. So it's almost like we've relived starting over again and how to start from scratch training everybody. So that's been interesting. We also use the GAIN for a substance abuse assessment. And I think one of our biggest things is probably just implementing intentionality and making sure we're super focused on how we respond to individuals. So we've been doing learning site visits for many years now. So we're happy to help You can reach out to me individually, or if you want to see the entire team, whatever's most helpful. But we're excited to be here and appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Eric. And yes, I should have mentioned that the Bonneville Mental Health Court and the EAC New York City Mental Health Court have been learning sites for a long time. We previously had these mental health learning sites, and they were grandfathered into this new cohort. So they have a lot of experience as peer connectors. Great. Next slide, please. Now I'm happy to introduce Wayne Carey, Dr. Wayne Carey from the Washington Corrections Center for Women Mental Health Program.
Good morning. I thought I was after maybe Dr. Parham. So thank you though. I'm happy to go now.
Right.
Just really honored to be part of this amazing group because I mean, just listening to all the programs, it's just, these are all really amazing programs. So I'm just really honored to be included with people representing this pathway. So we are I think the only prison that's part of the learning site, which is also really exciting for us. And I'm really excited. We're farther down that intercept pathway, but our passion is really using prison as an intercept to help women recover and gain access to services that they haven't had while they've been in the community or incarcerated due to like multiple barriers, racism, sexism, poverty, like you name it, things that get in the way of people actually accessing care. And we know that from implementation science that it takes about 17 years for evidence-based practices to make it into like a normal routine setting, and prison is even outside of that. And so bringing evidence-based practices into prison has been decades in the making to get actual trauma-informed care and then trauma evidence-based practices in here. So that's helping women recover, not recidivate, be better neighbors. We love all of that. We're very passionate about that. And that is our main thing. So you can reach out to us if you are a prison setting and you're needing help implementing EBPs, tracking data, metrics, outcomes. We've provided a lot of training for other prisons that are like, how do you do that? How do you start that? How do you manage that with short staffing or lack of resources or any of that? So that's what we're here for. And we're really grateful that you had us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And next slide. And now finally, we'll hear from Dr. Patricia Parham at the Virginia Department of Corrections Community Mental Health Program.
Thank you, Katie. So I'm Patricia Parham, clinical psychologist, and I am the Community Corrections Mental Health Clinical Supervisor for the Virginia DOC. I have been in this position since 2015, and it has been a wonderful experience to watch the growth of our mental health staff on the community correction side. I came from the prison side originally, and it's wonderful to be in community corrections and have gotten all the opportunities we've gotten to really grow our staff. So since 2017, the DOC has employed full-time mental health clinicians within our probation and parole district offices. Excuse me. Prior to that, the mental health staff and community corrections consisted of only 4 people, really, a supervisor and 3 regional mental health clinicians for the Western, Central, and Eastern regions of Virginia. And so back then, those 3 regional folks basically just spent a lot of time traveling through their regions and responding to referrals from probation officers in their districts. So we got the opportunity to create additional mental health clinician positions specifically to address the higher recidivism rate of individuals that have known mental health challenges. And that was from a report that came out from our research unit around, I think it was actually around 2015. So currently, the way our staff is composed, the regional mental health clinicians each supervise between 7 and 9 district mental health clinicians, and I'll call them DMHCs as we refer to them. And we have a total of 25 DMHCs. There are 43 probation and parole districts, which means that most of our district clinicians cover more than one district. And probably our biggest complaint that we hear from our probation chiefs is that they want people to themselves, which is a great problem to have. So the district mental health clinicians essentially serve as the in-house counsel for probation officers who can make direct referrals to the DMHCs in order to assess the mental health needs of probationers on their caseloads who have mental health challenges. And the main thing that we're trying to do, because with only a total of 25 district mental health clinicians, the main thing we're trying to do is to assess needs and get the probationers connected to treatment providers and resources in the community, kind of for the longer term. Our overall goal is to reduce as much as possible the times when people are violated, primarily for mental health reasons. So if there are mental health issues that are actually interfering with their ability to follow the conditions of their probation, if there is a treatment option, intervention, or program that would enable that individual to be successful on supervision, then we will make those recommendations and try to get them connected to those services, as opposed to a violation that ends up with them being put back in jail. We also just want to mention too, we strongly advocate for peer support in the continuum of care. And we currently, in community corrections, we have a contract with Mental Health America Virginia, so that our district mental health clinicians and probation officers can make referrals to individual peer support services. We also have, although this is not under community corrections, it's on the prison side, we also have a program in our institutions where inmates can be trained. They receive the training from our Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services to become certified peer recovery specialists. And so they get that skill and are able to utilize that both while they're incarcerated and also upon release. And that's been a very, very exciting development for us. So I will go ahead and put in a plug for tomorrow. Me and my team are going to be on the Ask the Expert series tomorrow afternoon, and we'll be able to provide more information about our program at that time. So, thank you, Katie.
Thank you. Yes, we're just putting you to work back to back, but it's so exciting. I mean, you have such great services that we're so excited to hear about them. Great. So again, I hope you all saw that that's just a snapshot. We would have loved to have all 10 sites here today, but we only have so much time. A little bit about the work they're doing. Next slide, please. So now I'll show you the website and how you can request support from these sites. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Now let me close this. Okay, so here is our JMHCP website. We have a QR code that I will show you in a minute to get here. But if you want to get to the Learning Site page, but here's a JMHCP website. And then if you scroll down here, to initiatives, you hit peer-to-peer learning sites. And again, I have a QR code, but oh, can you not see what I'm sharing?
No.
Hold on. Oh. Hold, please. Now can you see it? Okay, thank you. Thank you. So here we are. I'll just go back a second. So here we are at jmhcp.org, which is JMHCP's website. And there's all kinds of things on this website, but I won't go through all of it. Down here, we have our new peer-to-peer learning sites landing page. So this has both our law enforcement mental health learning site program that you can explore on your own time, and the criminal justice mental health learning site program. I'll click that. And here is kind of the landing page for these new learning sites. If you hover over each highlighted state, you'll get just a little blurb about each project, like that. And then here on the left, there's links to each individual page. It's alphabetical by type of project. So if we wanted to look at Teresa's program, you click this link, it's just a little at a glance. You can see right where their program is in the star program summary. Some of the sites have videos, photos, which are really nice to look at. The program highlights, which we talked through, a link to their website, and then the contact information for who to contact if you want to connect and make a peer connection. So you can call or email. Same thing here. If we look at Eric's program, there's their beautiful courthouse. Yeah, and then here, if you go back to the main, nope, sorry, if you go back here, we have this document that you can download, a PDF is the word I'm looking for, that you can download or look at online, that also has summaries of each project. And then we have some FAQs, a lot of which we talked about today. What kind of assistance do they offer? What are the areas of specialization? So if you can either reach out to the sites directly, the way I just showed you, you can also reach out to me, and my email is at the end here, and I can help connect you with a site if you're not really sure like which site makes most sense based on what you're interested in. I can help kind of figure out what would be make most sense and help make that introduction if you prefer it that way. I will note, assistance is provided at no cost. There could be a cost if you wanted to do an in-person site visit. You would be responsible for the travel. However, if your agency does not have the funding, you can reach out to me and we can maybe problem solve around some case-by-case basis assistance for travel. So again, I really encourage you all to use this site, look at all the different types of programs, also, the law enforcement learning sites. It's a really exciting advancement that we have this website ready to go. Okay, I will now stop sharing my screen. Okay, if you could pull up the slides again, David. Great, next slide. Here is the, oh yes, next slide. QR code, so if you want to just scan it right now and bookmark it, you can. You can bookmark the website. I encourage you to do it that way. Great, so again, I hope you saw that. Oh, we can also put the link to the website into the chat for sure. Great, next slide, please. So we have a bit of time for questions and answers, which I see here in the chat. I'm gonna first kind of answer broad questions about the sites in general. There's some questions like about each site that just spoke that if we have time, we can get to, but if not, I encourage you to reach out to them as a learning site. And it looks like some of you have also replied in the chat feature. So some of these have been answered. I'll just read them out loud. So what does site visits entail? What does it look like for a visiting agency? That's a great, and I encourage people to add more questions to the chat, to the Q&A right now. But site visits can really be customized based on what you're interested in seeing. There can take place over 1 day, a day and a half, 2 days. It can include taking a tour of a program in person, sitting through a court hearing for some of the court programs, meeting with the different teams and stakeholders, or one-on-one. Yeah, it can really be customized to what a site is interested in seeing. There is, if you're interested in an in-person site visit, you would reach out to me And we would kind of have a discussion about what you'd want to see and make sure it's a very targeted visit, not just like, oh, we want to take a trip to Austin and see the court while we're there. Make sure it's very targeted, but it's a great opportunity. Someone asked what requirements of these sites need to be selected. I talked a bit about that, but it's a really thorough application where there's a lot of questions about service delivery, partnerships, equity and community involvement, data, financial sustainability. The selected sites provided letters of recommendation, examples of like awards they may have won, conferences they've spoken at, examples of their policies and procedures. So it was a very thorough application. I will say some of you may be interested in applying to be a learning site, and we do have plans, kind of broadly to expand our cohort at some point in the future. So we'll definitely, make formal announcements if and when we release a new application to apply. But, this is our initial cohort, but we do have plans to expand it in the future. Again, I'm just going to mostly focus on like broad questions. Someone asked, does implementing programs like this require grants? I think that's a great question in terms of funding. I think that's definitely something all the sites are able to talk about with requesters. How is this funded? What types of grants have you applied for? What type of funding structure do you use for all these different aspects of your program? Because we know that's the really hard part of this work is getting sustainable funding. And not that these programs have all those answers, but they're clearly doing very well and they've been successful in that. So that's definitely something to reach out about to the sites. Okay, so there are just a couple questions, and we do have some time about the site. So it looks like Laura answered it in the chat, but if you could also maybe just talk verbally, Laura. The question is, housing is a major challenge in America and especially in reentry. What are some of the barriers you experience considering that support here in Georgia, such as, quote, Georgia housing voucher, requires a severe and persistent mental illness diagnosis? In some cases, it can be simply put as one is not sick enough to qualify for housing services.
Sure. So first and foremost, our case managers work to identify any resources in the community, which can include vouchers. But beginning, I believe, in 2019, we started also directly funding as part of our social service contract portfolio housing, so that if we can't find something in the community and we've been working with someone for 1 to 2 years to help them stabilize and resolve issues they may be facing, that we can make sure we're able to connect them with housing ultimately. So we fund permanent supportive housing. We have funding for rapid rehousing, and we also have funding for bridge and transitional housing as well. But we do, I don't want to make it sound oversimplified and easy. We have 300 people on our wait list for ongoing case management services. And then even when we do secure vouchers, we do have, barriers here where our housing market is so tight and expensive that it can take several months to identify a unit that will accept the voucher. So that's part of why we implemented the bridge housing, so that if we know we have someone that has a housing plan and has the voucher, we can give them a safe place to stay while we're working on finding that solution. But I think it's probably challenging across all communities for various reasons.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. This is a question for Teresa. Essentially, it's about how you obtain client consent in this app. This is my understanding of this question. Do you consider law enforcement partners a BA/QSO, which I'm not quite sure what that stands for. But yeah, I do have some questions as well about the kind of HIPAA compliance with an app like that. We could just talk like briefly about that, Teresa.
Yep. So first off, our app is HIPAA compliant. We do have all of our forms digitized in the app to include a release of information. So they are able to, our officers get releases of information during the intake for all providers, for any other agencies they may be involved with. That ROI that we use is actually a universal ROI in our county that was reviewed and approved by our reentry stakeholder team. It's the same release of information that probation utilizes, as well as our public defender's office, our reentry program, and then of course our adult diversion program. We also have, our courts did issue an administrative order allowing for collaboration among agencies for the purpose of treatment and coordination of care. And we are also currently working on MOUs and data sharing agreements with all of our system partners, because one of our goals, so the app that we use is actually the same app that is used by reentry, adult diversion, and our specialty court probation. So we're exploring interoperability and limited permission screen views within the app for our system providers so that we can accurately assess risk and needs and program outcomes at each intercept, as well as based on, you know, the risks and the needs, that the programmatic outcomes from those specific populations, so we can determine which program is more effective for each risk and needs population. And with that will come the MOUs and the data sharing agreements.
Great. Thank you. And yeah, I think that's just an example of also an issue that comes up all the time: information sharing, data sharing, HIPAA compliance, which I know, you know, all these sites work on issues like that all the time. So that's another great example of types of TA that they can all provide. There's also a question for Patricia about the caseload for each clinician. Is it a case management approach? She answered it here in the chat, but she explained the clinicians do not have a caseload like probation. They work with referrals. And yes, they do a lot of case management.
Yeah, and just talking about
Go
the issue,
ahead.
I'm sorry, just
No,
quickly,
go ahead.
issue with housing, that is
Yeah.
so huge, and something that we end up dealing with all the time. I will say just in a nutshell that I have such respect for probation officers, because what I learned coming from prison to community corrections is that they wear so many hats. It's amazing, including the case manager hat. So yes, when our mental health staff embedded ourselves into the probation and parole districts, that is an area where we realize we'd love to just stay in our mental health lane, but sometimes that's just what's needed. So I think it's more of a collaborative effort between us and the POs.
Absolutely. Well, great. These were great questions. There's also a question about more information on the community garden program that Laura mentioned, also, and I also just love that model. So you're welcome to reach out to her directly as a learning site. Great. So next slide, please, just as wrap up. Thank you so much for being, oh yes, we did that. Next slide, please. Thank you so much for being here and taking the time. I know everyone is so busy. So the fact that you were here to listen to this new project is so exciting. If you have any questions or want more information, here is my email. I'll also put it in the chat just so maybe you can copy and paste it. So if you have questions about the site, like I said, if you are interested in getting peer support but aren't really sure which site would make the most sense, I'm happy to have like a call with you or an email exchange first, and then I can help make introductions at any point. Again, I encourage you to use the website. The sites are willing and able and excited to help out anyone looking for assistance. So again, thank you all so much for being here. The recording of this will be available in about 2 weeks on our website. We'll make sure you get that information. So again, thanks so much and have a great day.